What if the thing you keep calling laziness isn't laziness at all? Hey, I'm Eddie. I explain the stuff adults are somehow expected to understand without anyone ever explaining it, especially the parts where you quietly think, I care? So why does this feel so hard? That's what we're talking about today. If this kind of explanation helps, you can subscribe. If not, your brain will label this interesting and move on. People who feel lazy usually aren't lazy. They care. They have standards. They want things to be better. What they're actually experiencing is ambition trapped behind friction, and friction is invisible, so it gets misnamed as a character flaw. Once you see that, the word lazy stops making sense. This topic is confusing because of how it feels from the inside. You want more. You know what you should be doing. You even think about it a lot. But actually starting feels heavy. So you assume the problem is motivation. And because no one ever explains another option, you quietly decide you're lazy. Not dramatically, just as a background belief. The mistaken belief is this: if I really cared, this would be easy. So when effort doesn't turn into action, you blame willpower. But willpower isn't the bottleneck most of the time. That's just the most obvious thing to blame. For centuries, sailors knew where they wanted to go. They had ambition, they had maps, they had strong incentives not to fail, but they kept missing destinations. Ships wrecked, people died. The problem wasn't discipline or intelligence or effort. They simply couldn't calculate longitude accurately at sea. From the outside, it looked like human failure. In reality, it was a system problem. It took one clock, built by a clockmaker, not a sailor, to remove the friction. Same sailors, same ambition, completely different outcomes. Here's the model. Ambition points you somewhere. Energy gives you capacity. But friction is everything that makes starting costly. Extra steps, unclear edges, too many decisions before momentum even begins. Most people blame low energy when the real issue is high friction. And friction doesn't show up on the surface. When you misunderstand this, a few things happen quietly. You lower your standards to cope. You stop trusting yourself. You take on guilt as an explanation. And none of that removes friction. It just makes you tired and confused. Going back to the sailors, they didn't suddenly become more motivated when the clock was invented. The environment changed. What looked like laziness was actually competence waiting for friction to drop. That's usually what's happening to you, so you don't need to push harder or label yourself differently. Just notice what's making starting expensive, because wanting more and doing less isn't a contradiction. It's often a signal. This was Eddie Explains, more things that get misnamed. Coming soon. Subscribe if you want, or don't. Either way, you're probably not lazy.